You are now listening to Feeding Off Each Other.
So first podcast, right? First podcast?
I think first podcast ever.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what are you going for? The 1 year headphone? I see you.
I'm going with the 1 year, one out. One in, one out.
And how's the sound of your own voice right now?
Terrifying. I'm so self-conscious about it. I mean, no, it's good for the feedback. You know, I can really adjust my tone appropriately. I think that's what it makes you do. Is it makes you realize, oh, like you sound like a chipmunk right now. So let's lower it down a bit. You know.
I do have a tendency to do that as I get closer to the mic.
Yeah.
Right.
My voice.
You go into that lower register.
Becomes ASMR now.
The headphones are good. Stops us from talking over each other most of the time.
What did he say?
And the soundboard.
And then that. Okay.
Accomplishes the exact opposite.
And I feel like I also feel cooler with the headphones.
Oh,
on.
well, when you're wearing them
right?
like that. I think the coolest way to wear the headphones is at the back of the neck.
Dr. Dre
Yes.
frickin' wraparound. Yes. That's. I don't think I'm cool enough for that quite yet. Oh, no. Yep. Already fumbling. We're good. Okay.
Welcome back to Feeding Off Each Other, the weekly podcast where we feed off the talent, humor, knowledge, and awesome stories of our guests and each other. I'm Matt Dennison.
Cannibalism. Right. Now,
Cannibalism? No.
Feeding off each other. Okay.
We haven't cannibalized in the podcast
Nope.
yet.
Okay. Well, we could take it quite literally. You know, we're feeding off of each other. I can offer a finger. And
What? Sorry, what?
Oh, appetizers.
That's what she said.
I'm Matt Dennison, joined as always by my co-host David Wiggins and Jason Lucas.
Hello.
Hello.
I got no nicknames for you
Yeah,
this time.
damn.
Okay.
Wait. Jason has something he wants to say.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
no. God,
Speech.
Whoa. Wait, you guys gotta listen.
God, I am so dang horny. Seriously, my boner is out of control right now. Good thing I got the old ball and chain at home, if you know what I mean. No. Wink, wink. But that's just classic me. Former host of Pink Bike Academy, Jason Lucas. Dave!
Whoa, Jason, that was so weird.
That probably made no sense to people listening.
Yeah.
Such a warm welcome.
I think Uytae just lost his job. Was that AI?
No, that was You saw him moving his mouth.
He was saying it right
crazy.
here in front of my eyes. So,
No.
yeah.
Oh man.
And I saw the boner too.
That was... Well, at least you saw it.
Whoa! Matt has something to
Oh
say.
no!
Yeah, I don't. It's so weird.
Why is he so much short?
Whoa. Okay, stop talking. Stop talking.
I just took a huge poo-poo in my panties, and now they are so stinky. Maddie Dennison is one yucky ducky today.
I sound like a chipmunk. Is that what I sound like? It sounds higher. It sounds a little higher, like a higher tone.
Yeah, I don't know. And then like you really recently got really into rapping, right?
What the hell?
Look, if you had one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. He's nervous, but on the surface, he looks calm and ready to drop bombs, but he keeps on forgetting.
Wow, that was beautiful,
Dave,
man.
just dropping bombs.
Yeah.
So that's why you work from home today in the morning.
I'm just so busy. I've got so much to do.
I did that yesterday. Yeah.
What is happening? Is this? Did you guys actually record this? Or is this
No, it's AI. He just made that up. He took our voices.
I don't know what is. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
He's weaponizing our voices against us, and this is how we're gonna get canceled.
this is the
What?
future.
No, we're not going to get canceled. Wait, Jason, you have something to say though, don't you?
Oh my god!
Honestly, I think 9/11 was an outside job. Think about it. The planes were in the sky. Get it? And that is a Jason Lucas original. Mi amigos.
All right,
Mi amigos.
all right, guys. Dave, now listen. I know you're used to being the smartest guy in the pod, okay? But today we have a much different scenario. You are no longer the smartest person on the pod.
It's true.
Our guest is by far the smartest guy on the pod.
I concur.
Let's see about that.
And this behavior is unacceptable right now. But it's very entertaining.
Did you catch the joke Jason made?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was loud enough in your ear.
I was laughing too hard, I think. I blacked out.
That's okay. You'll hear it when you listen to this later.
Yeah, I'll be listening to this back.
Okay.
Should I do the intro?
Please. What?
On
Now,
that
who's
note.
saying the intro? Oh God, I don't trust
Should
you
I
anymore.
get the computer
Yeah.
to do it or?
Right.
Today's guest is a master storyteller in the realm of urban planning, weaving together the intricate tapestry of city life with the finesse of a maestro. He's the brains behind enlightening and engaging videos that unravel the mysteries of our cityscapes on his YouTube channel, About Here, and sometimes on CBC. Plus, he was recently appointed to the board of commissioners overseeing BC housing. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Uytae Lee.
Absolutely chat GPT the heck out of that.
I had to make edits though.
There weren't
and-
enough 9/11, comments on that. Gosh, it's a
9/11
real
was
pleasure to be
such
here.
a-
I'm worried because I'm going to be canceled. This is where it happens. And it's a very delightful way to go, surrounded by
Perfect.
Good people that I respect a lot.
Wonderful.
Well, that's how you're going to get canceled is by respecting us and associating to what these guys keep saying.
Dave's actually just like collecting all of your voice data right now, and he's
Oh, that's what it's about.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what we
my
need.
take on that is actually in the future it'll be impossible to get canceled because if everyone's got that excuse, like that wasn't me, that was AI, that was AI Uytae. You didn't actually have me on the podcast. This was completely computer generated, and I will take no responsibility for whatever I say today.
We've entered Black Mirror territory now. People don't know what to think.
Great success.
Oh man.
But yeah, seriously though, I thought I'd just get it out of the way beforehand, and I said it like first thing I came into the studio. But I mean, a huge part of the reason I'm here is because I have just a tremendous amount of respect for the work you guys have created over the years, the production quality. I take notes all the time on like your humor, your pacing, and I just wanted to get all of that sort of fuzzy, cringy, stuff.
Oh yeah,
out of the way
name
before-
30 videos.
30. I mean, I'll try one. Yeah.
Just think of a topic and then put how to be in front of it.
Oh,
How to
How
be.
to be-
Doesn't know.
yeah. No.
Fake news.
Oh God.
Actually, so Uytae, we
Thank
met.
you.
Clever, but yeah.
Okay, wait. I'm saying your name right. Uytae.
Uytae, yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Also another thing to get out of the way. I get asked that question a lot because my name, when you look at it written out, it's just a jumble of vowels, and so it's not intuitive to pronounce it that way. But yeah, Uytae.
Uytae. What are your family members' names? Anybody else with a funky name? Or are we
You know,
doxing your family?
Funky name.
Hey, it's all vowels,
You're gonna
man.
appreciate it. Yeah, this could get a bit awkward, and you'll see why.
Not to be racist or anything.
Yeah, no. Geez.
Hey, he said it himself.
Yeah, this sounds
man.
really problematic. So the funny thing about a lot of Korean names is out of either practicality or laziness, you tend to name all your children with at least one of the syllables in common.
Okay.
And so I'm Uytae. My younger brother is Yusik. And then my youngest brother is Yu Hyun, but he goes by Daniel because, this is one of the post-immigration babies my family had. So
Interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I never
You
knew that.
sick.
yeah.
A lot of people had probably made jokes about that name, and
all the time.
Yeah.
No, that definitely unfortunate, but apparently means like righteous. So
Like righteous is in like holy, or righteous is in
Like sick,
yeah, like
righteous.
sick. Like righteous, dude. Yeah.
you can take that up with my mom.
so born in Korea, raised in
Yes,
Langley,
sir.
moved when you were
Yes,
2 years
sir.
old. You were saying.
2 years old. Yes, my parents initially moved here for my dad's education.
Your father's education.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Namgyu came here to study to become a preacher, if you can believe it.
Righteous.
Very righteous indeed. And so he went to Trinity Western University, which is like a Christian university in Langley. And so, other than a 2-year stint in Manchester, England, that's kind of where my whole family grew up.
Sweet.
Yeah, fun facts. I don't want to digress too much, but I kind of do have this sort of pet theory where a lot of, or like there's one other sort of really major YouTube channel that's come out of Langley covering urban planning topics. His name is Reese Martin, RM Transit. And our joke is that like, if you grew up in Langley or if you grew up in kind of the suburbs, you might have some of the, the resentment you need around your city's urban planning to start up a YouTube channel like this. But yeah.
Yeah, what's
anyways.
in the water in Langley? Because Linus Tech Tips also from
Oh,
Langley.
that's a good point.
Is he
I think
from
he's
Langley?
a Surrey guy,
Surrey,
but
okay.
I'm
Surrey boy.
Surrey boy. But I don't. There's the people might think that there's quite some beef between Langley and Surrey, but I've always been of the opinion they kind of look the same to me. So yeah,
You
something's
pissed off
going
both.
on.
You're pissed off both sides probably with that.
Oh
Pissed
gosh,
off
yeah.
everyone.
Well, continuing on to the cancellation. But yeah, that was where I grew up.
So we're big fans as well.
Oh, shucks.
Your videos are very well made. They cover important topics, much more important topics than our videos showcase. That's for sure. They're funny. They're just really great. And I thought maybe you could kind of tell the chuthers out there, our listeners.
The Chuthers.
The chuthers.
Is that our viewership? The name we've given them.
Yeah,
the Chuthers.
chuthers or feeders? What do you prefer?
Oh. The feeder sounds kind of that doesn't sound great. So yeah, Chuthers.
Okay,
Chuthers it is.
right on.
Each other's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, maybe you could tell the chuthers out there a little bit about your channel and what you do.
Oh, of course, sure. Appreciate the opportunity for a plug anytime. So my channel is called About Here. I'm being redundant. You already named it, but the sort of issues I cover, I like to describe as urban planning or like local policy issues. And the real reason I started is because I was an urban planning student myself in Halifax, actually, when I first started thinking of making videos on these topics. And I was learning in school about all these different plans, policies that were coming out in local council about the transit system or developments and housing policies. Housing wasn't as much of an issue back then, but it was definitely starting to get on the radar. And there just wasn't really any good information about it online. And so that was a real impetus of the channel, was just wouldn't it be nice to present this sort of stuff in a way that is accessible.
And what did you start with? What was your first video?
What was the first video? Dang. I mean, okay. So the first, I'd say maybe official urban planning video I ever made, it was with a really good friend of mine in Halifax, and it was on sort of Halifax's 10-year plan to improve its public transit system. And so it was a admittedly very cobbled together sort of video where we explained, here are all the ways that all these different bus routes are changing. They were, if you want to get nerdy into it, they were going from sort of a single seat-based system into a transfer-based system. So a lot of cities, they have buses that start from the suburbs and basically perform one function, which is just take everyone downtown during the mornings and then take everyone out of downtown during the evenings, which is great for that specific trip. But if you're trying to get in between any of these outer, neighborhoods, or just generally have a public transit system that takes you kind of into any part of the city you want more of like a grid-based system. So you have lines sort of going all the way sort of horizontally and vertically throughout the city that you can, transfer, from one bus to another, or basically have one transfer to take you kind of wherever you want to go. Sorry, I nerded out a little bit there, but that was kind of the first video, was kind of breaking down like, oh, why is, Halifax trying to change its bus routes into this sort of system? And it seemed to do reasonably well. And for me, reasonably well back then was we got 500 views. And in Halifax, that was enough to get sort of...
Key to the city.
They lifted you up on a chair.
I became mayor the year afterwards. But no, it was enough to fall on the radar of their local newspaper. And, that led to one of our first sort of gigs producing videos for that local newspaper. Shout out to the Coast.
Coast.
Yes, sir.
They still alive?
Like a lot of independent publications, I think they're still alive technically, but they've been bought out several times.
Coasting
Oh,
along.
okay.
Coasting along. Yeah.
ChatGPT.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Sure, that plays a role. Yeah.
Crazy. I'm curious, like, how did you start to turn it from making videos with a friend to like making videos as your job?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's a road paved with a lot of failures and burnouts. But I guess to give you the full timeline, because I really don't want to take credit for starting these sort of videos. I really did start this as a partnership with my friend. His name is Byung Jin, and before that first video, we actually kind of were already experimenting with making videos around urban planning issues for school assignments. So we'd have like, a school assignment on like wetlands or something, and one of the sort of options you could sort of hand in was to make a video. And so we started off doing that sort of stuff. Then we did our first video on the transit plan in Halifax, and then that sort of spun off into like a non-profit cooperative organization called Planifax. Yes, I
Love it.
I get it.
We thought it was very clever at the time, and that was sort of the container in which we produced. I got to say, maybe like 20 or 30 different videos on urban planning issues in Halifax for about 4 years, and then I honestly kind of gave up after that. I've really thought like there was a bit of a ceiling and sort of the appetite for this sort of content. I mean, I feel like it's strange now, like, because there is quite a bit of interest in these sort of urban planning,
For sure.
local policy, housing issues now. But back then it was, it definitely was a bit of a niche. And so, my thought was to basically go back home, to mom and dad, live in the basement and look for work as an urban planner. And for, for about a year, I was, just putting out job applications for very typical urban planning jobs. And unfortunately, and perhaps fortunately to my life now, it was a very tough market at the time. So I wasn't really hearing back from anybody, really struggling to network. And so I got back to making videos in my spare time. And that's when I put out my first video under About Here. And it was also on transit, actually. It was about the SkyTrain to UBC.
Oh, okay.
And then, many, many other steps later, which included partnerships with the CBC and, with the city of Vancouver. I've been lucky enough to make some kind of a career out of it, at least for now.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
that's a
Well, thanks,
crazy trajectory.
It is, yeah. No, people often ask me, like, how do you get into this sort of work? Or, what's there's no roadmap. There's no very you get this degree and then this certificate and then you apply for a thing. No, I feel like, and perhaps you guys can relate, like the path to finding any kind of career in producing videos or content and then making that, a sustainable career is just, everyone finds their own unique way to doing it.
I thought it was interesting. I went back and watched your first video.
Oh no, the first Planifax video?
No. I didn't go that deep.
I have to say, if people, we made some really interesting creative decisions, and I'm only saying, I'm interrupting you, sorry, right
okay.
now, but because it's funny to me. There's one scene where I am delivering like a piece to camera. I'm just talking to the audience, and for no reason, I'm holding a ukulele. I don't play it. It plays no role, even thematically, to the story, but it's just there in my hands.
That's
So,
awesome.
I'm sure me back then thought it was clever. Anyway, sorry, you were saying something there.
Well, having not known that Planifax was a thing, I was really impressed with your first About Here video, and that it was so fully formed. Like it didn't seem like your cameras were not quite as good, but you had the same graphics, you had the same structure. I was like, oh, you just came out the womb, just crushing.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to dispel that sort of myth. It really, About Here came out of the ashes of, a lot more, very trial and error videos I made back in Halifax, and videos that I'm ultimately quite proud of and happy that, but it's nice to sort of be able to, to have a history where, you can start one project and make a lot of the initial mistakes and then kind of just move on to a new project. So everyone thinks, hey, this guy just was always good at what he does.
So I just wanted to ask about the animations you do. Is that you, or do you get help with that?
It is me, sadly. I'm glad that it comes across, decent enough. But I will say it's a very self-taught and incredibly inefficient process. I guess I'm talking to probably a bunch of editors / animators yourselves, and I think what is standard is to use programs like After Effects or something fancier. I'm still freaking bringing images into Premiere Pro and keyframing.
Oh wow.
Stuff.
nice.
And at this point, I'm just afraid to try anything different.
We're the same. We
Yeah.
we
Oh, is
don't
that right?
yeah we don't venture that much into the After Effects.
Yeah, it's
And if
it
we do,
feels
maybe
like
we
a
were
pretty
buying
crazy
templates,
universe.
pre-made templates for
that's the secret,
animations,
hey?
Or using the roto
Video,
tool.
videohive.com or something.
Praying.
Okay. Let me know if there's any good templates for like maps.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's some
Oh,
app
yeah. I've
templates.
spent-
Yeah.
Like
Spent
I
a lot
want
of
to
money on
know,
those templates.
yeah, I want to know what like Johnny Harris is using, or some of these like fancy, YouTubers. They seem to be, doing it at a whole other level.
Yeah, but I'm always so impressed by them, and they're so well put together. And this is a compliment. Reminds me of Vox, your style.
That's high praise. Thank you so much. I mean, for sure, I take a ton of inspiration from Vox. I mean, I reference Johnny Harris. A lot of his videos have been a huge source of inspiration for at least how I like to approach the visuals and the storytelling of the videos. And yeah, for you to say that, I mean, damn. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
How did you come up with the name? About Here. It's a nice, short,
Oh.
simple name, memorable. I really like it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I put a lot of thought into it. I will say the initial thought that the first name idea I had, perhaps unsurprisingly, was Plancouver.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And thank God we didn't go with that.
You would have really painted yourself into a corner. There.
I wonder.
You also came up with the term plandemic, right?
But another part of my lore.
That was great, man. I thought that.
I really like to think I coin
Yeah.
a lot of good terms. But yeah, no, sadly I can't own Plancouver. The funny thing is the only reason I didn't go with Plancouver was there was a Facebook page called Plancouver with like 100 likes or something. And to me, I was like, oh man, 100 people already know Plancouver as this thing, so I'm not gonna, cannibalize on that. But the sort of the idea for it ultimately came from a place of, admittedly, I was thinking, and I'd come from this sort of experience of feeling like I had really painted, the content into a corner with Planifax, and, feeling like, this is a bit of a niche, and the way to really make this work would be to expand the scope a little bit. And so I really tried to boil it down to like, what about these videos ultimately matter to people? What are we trying to get at? And the kind of the feeling that I have is that my videos, if they're doing their job well, they're really connecting people to the places they live in. And I like to say that like oftentimes, the way we interact and live in our cities is kind of like goldfish in an aquarium. Like you're swimming in it, but maybe you don't really know like the all the various different technologies and systems that go into making that aquarium possible. Well, I think in a very similar way, cities are like human aquariums. I mean, but with more flexibility. It's not like a 15-minute city trap kind of thing. But I don't know if that's another conspiracy theory you've heard of, maybe. But that there's so much that goes on behind the scenes of what makes a city, and more importantly, that all of those mechanisms, those policies, they are malleable and they're shaped by people like you and me. Usually, more. I'm not going to get into like identity politics stuff here, but whatever. But like that you can kind of interact with them and really shape them yourselves as a citizen. So that was the kind of idea, was like, it's about here. It's about where you are, the place you live in, and and it felt like abstract enough to kind of feel like I could continue to expand the scope if I need to. It's not necessarily. Maybe I'll like talk about electronics someday.
Well, it's great. I
into
thought it was really memorable, and even like the graphics that you kind of show as your video starts, it's just nice and simple. Where does this graphic design, like artistic kind of background come from?
I thought you were talking about the logo itself at first, and I was going to say like, it's just clip art. Stuff
It's effective though.
Yeah, it is effective.
In the
It's
way
simple.
that like transit signs are kind of clip arty, right? You're
Totally.
pulling from the same aesthetic. So
Yeah,
And
yeah.
some
it's-
people they want to make their first logo, and they totally They make it way too complicated,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
I do. I definitely was quite intentional in not wanting to over design it, and I was also, I wanted to feel dynamic too. That like, there is like a stationary version of the About Here logo that, works on a letterhead or something, but this is a video thing, first and foremost. But to your question of like, where does the design background come from?
Yeah, because you're a city planner student. Where does the
Where's
artistry
the
come
video
from?
and all? It's weird. I mean, I think I can really point to one sort of experience in my life. I took a video editing and graphic design class in high school. Shout out to Mr. Radford at WGSS. And
Friend of the pod.
Is that right?
The newest chother.
Yeah, have him on next, and he'll give you some great tips, I'm sure. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I learned the very basics of Illustrator, Photoshop, Premiere Pro, or no, we used Sony Vegas.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
shout out.
That
yeah.
was where we
That's
started
it.
too.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What happened to Sony Vegas? I feel like that kind of dropped off the.
I think Premiere just
Half of it.
crushed everything.
Well, like Final
The
Cut
monopoly
Pro 10
continues.
came out.
I think what happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas, and it was a whole
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. The people in Vegas still use it.
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah.
the invisible wall.
The community of Nevada, mostly.
I appreciate. By the way, I really appreciate the humor you guys bring to my drivel. So thank you for that. Yeah, but I think other than that, I've always just enjoyed making things look nice too, and I was the guy in planning school just obsessing over the map and making sure everything's got to look right and whatnot. And admittedly, like check out the PlanFact stuff. The graphics look much worse there, and I will say like it's a lot of trial and error, as I'm sure like figuring it out and publishing some pretty bad videos and realizing like it could look better if I did it this way or this other way. And I think sort of it's come really organically. I mean, maybe my mom would tell you like I've always had a little bit of an artistic flair, but yeah, I think that's the one thing I can truly place is Mr. Radford's grade 11 graphics class.
Stay in school, kids.
Yeah.
So you also have a big presence on camera. You are presenting your own videos.
True. Yep.
So you obviously have a high level of confidence to do that. You walk in here, you're a little nervous for the podcast.
It's all
I don't
an
know
act.
if I'm,
It's all theater, man. It's all.
I guess this is the unedited version. When your videos, you
Right.
can protect yourself with your edits and whatnot in Sony Vegas.
Yep.
Um,
And here I am, just in the nude.
Just letting it spew. Susceptible to
What?
whatever Dave has on his laptop. Whatever AI he has next. Yeah, I mean that's. You have a lot going for you. Not only are the videos great, you're smart enough to talk about these, and passionate enough to talk about these topics, but you're good on camera too. So where does that come from?
It's weird. I mean, and first off, I really appreciate all of that, but I anytime someone's mentioned that to me, I've really struggled to come up with a good answer, and to some extent, I feel like for me it feels very intuitive. Like, oh, this is how you should, edit this or present this. The one theory I came up with is that in high school I hung around with a lot of drama school kids, and I was never, sort of a lead actor or anything like that, but I was always sort of in the presence of people who were some real characters, I'd say, still good friends, and maybe that rubbed off on me in some way. I think though, it definitely doesn't come from a place of inner confidence.
So you say
Yeah.
would you say you fed off them, or?
I like Kirby
Feeding
just
off
consumed,
each other.
some people and tried to take on. I mean, I kind of like any kid hanging out with his high school friends. You're trying to fit in, and so I think, I did wrote myself into a couple of musicals. Played a very nice background character,
Like a tree.
Yeah, not even that far from the truth. And I think it. I will say that
I'm a genius.
Yes, Matt is a genius. And
No. Speaking on your behalf.
Oh no! Oh my goodness. No, I think where it comes from a little bit is an intense sort of, and not to like kind of drop the tone of it, but I feel like there's an intense self-consciousness that I bring to my work often, where I'm like literally like thinking and overthinking. Am I sounding right? Is this looking right? Is this just? I'm so neurotic about some of these details. And so, these takes where I'm presenting to the camera, I mean, I've been told like it sounds like I, spoke just off the cuff and whatever is just on my mind that day. And that is so far from the truth. I am writing out these scripts, and rewriting them kind of over the process of a month or so, and then doing like maybe like anywhere between 5 to 10 takes to just make sure that I'm getting the delivery just right. So, I'm glad that it comes off as, a sort of a calm and measured and perhaps confident voice. But I do think, and I try to tell people, anyone who's sort of getting into this sort of work and feeling really unsure and unconfident about their work, like actually that's kind of a good thing. Like it's kind of a good thing to really care deeply about these details. And it might come from a place of self-consciousness initially, but what you can produce out of that really, I think, can often benefit from that.
I was also noticing that a lot of your reporting you do is like there's people around.
Yeah. Just one Broadway shot of you standing in the middle of traffic on Broadway.
Yeah.
Oh my
And there was
gosh.
also one at the Broadway commercial bus station.
Right in the middle of traffic, in between the traffic cones. And I that's where I hand it to you. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can never do that. And you're saying, oh, maybe it was the drama kids I hung out with. I don't know, man.
I mean, see that? I think I'm just weird. I don't know.
That's
There's
right
no
answer.
good explanation. And that is true. Like I have noticed, like I am able to tune that out pretty easily.
Yeah, that's
For some
a
reason.
blessing.
Yeah.
Because you can accomplish a lot when you don't care what others think.
Yeah.
Maybe. I grew up with 3 other siblings, and in a very, very noisy, healthy kind of like busy household, and I think I've become very accustomed to like tuning out sort of background noise and siblings, and maybe that might play a role.
Yeah, do you have any like are you ever thinking about it? Like, so I'm thinking about you in traffic, I'd be looking at every driver passing by, any person trying to wait for a window where there's no one walking. Or you just go for it?
Honestly, not really.
No tricks.
And I think maybe it's just because from my experience, especially if you're just filming in a pretty urban setting, people are very accustomed. I would say, like in a city like Vancouver, I'm hardly the strangest thing that's happening on the streets usually. And so, I think, you kind of underestimate how much people don't care about what's going on around them when they're just on their daily commute or, in a space. Like for sure, every now and then people will come up and be like, well, what are you doing? What's your business here? But for the most part, people leave you alone. And they kind of just assume, oh, he's this guy is just doing his thing.
Sorry to cut in, but we have a joke where if we're working on like a commercial project or anything where that might be exciting, if someone walks up and they say, hey, what are you shooting? You say, we're shooting a mayonnaise commercial. Which is the most boring answer you can get.
That's like the industry kind of like
the
insider joke.
inside joke.
I see.
Mayo commercial, yeah.
How's that? Not insurance, hey?
And
like
your advantage is to the average person being like, I'm doing an urban development
That's
video.
true. I can literally, I'm doing a video on zoning bylaws. There's a really important issue, and
Sorry, I asked.
Yeah, they're already gone. Like you're like 2 words in. Whereas if we tell them we're shooting like a music video, they want to like hang out.
I want to be in a cameo.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say to some extent, like with some of the success of the video, I have found it increasingly a bit more difficult to film in public because I'm
signing faces, taking selfies.
Gotta shake some hands and kiss some babies.
Yep.
But no, like people do regularly come up to me now when I'm doing these sort of stand-ups, and it's certainly, I mean, it's disruptive to the process, but ultimately, I'm incredibly validating and sorry.
Just irate.
I mean, there's certain parts of me that's like, I could get on.
That
with
was a
this,
perfect take.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's been kind of fun to see as well. It's just people kind of recognizing the work you do and
Great, well
interfering
deserved.
with takes. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
But a bit of a technical question here.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, when you're doing, so you do your kind of monologues. I don't know what you call them. When you're speaking to the camera. I don't know if you have a term for that. but you hop around the city. You know, you have say maybe 2 sentences here, 2 sentences here. Are you doing the whole script in one and then picking and choosing, or you know exactly I'm going to do these 2 sentences by the stairs, then I'm going to go over to the SkyTrain, do 2 sentences?
Yeah,
It's the good
exactly
stuff.
that. I'm very, like I said, very neurotic about the script. So I literally I write out the whole script beforehand, and I highlight specific sections that I think, you know, would benefit from having a host deliver it to the camera, either because there's not really good B-roll or sort of other graphics that would go well with it, or it's a transition. And I find like, you know, that's a great place for a host is when you need to change the topic. It's really hard to do that using B-roll. And so, you know, that's where I can step in and, you know, play that role. And so because of that, I'm very, like, I literally deliver one line at a time. I read it, I memorize it, deliver it, you know, 5 to 10 times, stop the camera, and then move on to the next line or the next location as necessary.
I see.
Yeah.
Very planned.
One line at a time.
I'm very inefficient.
So you
That's
can
what I'm trying to say.
Not only can you plan a city, you can plan a script.
You know, one is much more impressive than the other, but yeah.
So I want to learn some stuff about Vancouver. I don't know about you guys. I want to dive in because I love this
Get
stuff.
into
And
it.
like when I discovered your channel, I was super excited. I love to look at old maps of Vancouver. I love to learn why things are the way they are. Old photos, archive photos. I love that stuff. I have a couple books at home I need to get through.
Just two books.
It's literally 2 books actually.
You have his whole house.
You know, that counts as books, plural.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got a
it's
whole
books.
library of 2 books.
They're sitting there.
I got a stack of Playboys. Does that count?
Yeah, I think there's
On
words.
Vancouver planning, hey?
Yep.
And there's a few topics that you've covered that I thought were really interesting. One that comes to mind is how corner stores are no longer a thing in residential areas, and how you can't have storefronts, on
in
your
a
average
neighborhood.
suburb. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm happy to just get into the weeds on any one of these things, and I definitely
We're here to learn.
Well, I appreciate that, but I also ask you guys to kind of put some fences around. Like, if it gets a bit too nerdy, you can stop me at any time. I'm quite used to it. My family
Jason, you got a
regularly
sound
will-
for
Yeah,
that?
we got a sound for that.
And yeah, okay. I think that sounds about as effective as it can be. So yeah, the front yard businesses story. I really love that one because, like I said, I grew up in Langley, which is truly an example of this kind of 20th century North American planning, which was really concerned about separating uses. So there are uses that are commercial, where you shop and where you have offices and you do commerce. And then there are uses that are residential, which is where you sleep and, your home essentially. And a lot of what we did right throughout the 40s to, I'd say, maybe like the 90s was in creating neighborhoods that were separated by use. And so, to me, this was like a story where like I really saw some potential for how we can sort of undo that narrative and some of that planning. And it came from this, like as you say, this like interesting historic anecdote. So if you look at old photographs of Vancouver from around like the early 1900s, maybe 1910s, this is when the city was putting it down some of its first streetcar routes. So we had like the old city center, which is Gastown and parts of Granville. And then from there on out, there were all these like different streetcar lines that ended up being built, going out to neighborhoods like East Van, Mount Pleasant, and kind of right throughout the city. And what would happen is these, first off, people would build houses beside these streetcar routes because that's a very convenient thing to be close to. But then over time, they would build out shops, sometimes right in their front yard, or they would incorporate into their house because there was a ton of traffic that was being generated by these streetcars. And, city of Vancouver just didn't want, too much of a good time, and they outlawed those businesses in the, I want to say the 1920s or 30s with the adoption of the first plan for Vancouver. But to me, that was like a real kind of missed opportunity, I think, in history where we could have had so much more, interesting street life and shops within some of our neighborhoods that we kind of cut short because we were worried about, a host of understandable issues that do come up when you have different uses right next to each other. There's another photograph in that video where there's a guy selling compressed gas as part of in his front yard, and I can understand why that raised some eyebrows, but
And what was that? What was the compressed gas? Why is he selling it? What is it?
Oh, clearly there's some demand for it. It's I don't know.
Whippets? What is it? Were they a thing back then?
Oh, I mean, I'm saying compressed gas of it. Like the sign says compressed gas, and maybe that's the label for it, but it's like, like kerosene,
Like
just
explosive,
propane.
dangerous.
Yeah.
you know, the stuff you
materials.
hook up to your
Gotcha.
barbecue. Yeah.
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 Or whippets. It could be either.
Yeah. But man, that ended up being such a fun story for me, just because I think sometimes we assume a lot of our like urban fabric is just kind of the way it's always been, and that we, there's a very good reason why it's the way it is, and there are reasons, and that is kind of really baked in, and it's really difficult to change. But I think it's really helpful to see kind of historical precedent or examples where we develop very differently, and it kind of, for me, opens my mind up to how we could do things differently today.
I wouldn't mind a few more corner stores.
Yeah.
And every time
They're
I ride my bike by a corner store, there's a few that are in odd areas in Vancouver. Just
Yeah.
random little coffee shops or something. And it makes me think of your story.
Totally. I mean, the story behind those ones is that they were like the few that sort of trickled in before this clampdown by the city in the 30s. So of course, like some of the major sort of first commercial streets were developed around the streetcar network. But obviously there were other entrepreneuring individuals who didn't necessarily live close to streetcars that saw an opportunity in their own neighborhoods to open a small shop or a cafe or a corner store. And I don't want to mess up the statistic too much, but I think there were literally hundreds of them throughout the city at some point.
No way.
And over the years, just through various different reasons, some of them economic, but a lot of them also just like regulatory. We've lost a lot of these corner stores as well. One of the reasons why is the economic reason is like oftentimes that space is more profitable to be rented out as housing, because in this freaking city, housing just is such a profitable business if you are lucky enough to own some of these assets. But also, there are certain rules around like if there's a major renovation that needs to be made, or like a fire happens in one of these places, you have to basically rebuild it to what the zoning is today. And I guess I'm missing some context here. Like those old stores are allowed to remain because they've been grandfathered in. They existed before the rules, and so we're not going to make you change it now. But anytime something major in terms of renovations or incidents happens, that's when the city sort of enforces, these bylaws to bring these spaces up to code. I should mention, though, because some councillors are probably going to be upset with it if I don't mention, the city is now looking into reintroducing and allowing these sorts of stores in residential areas again. So it's really great to see some progress on that.
I learned about this through your feeds.
Oh, okay.
This
There you
is
go.
there's a possible change ahead.
Lovely.
I've got a question about like I feel like Vancouver's full of these weird bylaws. For example, like I remember when I used to live in Kitsilano, and there when they can build new buildings, but the building they build on top of these old buildings from the 60s and 70s can't be any taller than the building that pre-existed, and it can't have any more units within the apartment.
Yeah.
So it like creates almost, well, you're not going to build new buildings. There's no point in that.
Oh, I mean, I think it's one of those like little rules that has huge implications, because what you're effectively doing is saying this neighborhood can't grow.
Exactly.
If you can't add more units, you can't make it bigger.
Are there more rules like that though that we don't even know about across? I mean, I'm sure the answer is yes.
Do you want to get
like,
into the weeds? For sure. I mean, there's. I would say to me they don't feel like fun facts. Like we don't have like some of those fun rules like they do in England, where it's like you can't walk your cow down the main street after 2 p.m. on a weekday. But
Freedom.
Yeah, right. We have freedom here, real freedom, except for when it comes to housing.
I walk my cow whenever I want.
Nowhere to put it.
Yeah, to your question, the rules you mentioned were around height. So there are height restrictions, and then unit restrictions for sure. But then there are restrictions around setbacks. So this is how far the building can be from the property line, and basically every building in Vancouver has to have some amount of distance from the street. And of course, you're losing out on some buildable square footage through that. I think probably the most impactful one is actually just like a hard rule on floor space in Vancouver. So what that means is like, they call it FSR, floor space ratio, but all that is to say is that every building in Vancouver has a maximum amount of floor space, like square footage you can build. And to me, that's just always been a bizarre one because it's like, it's not regulating anything kind of functional. It's literally just putting a cap on like how much floor space you have inside your home. So regardless of whether you're housing, an individual who just came out of university or a family, no, this is the floor space you can build. This is the maximum amount. There's probably some other fun stuff too, but I'll save you the nap time.
No, it's all interesting. It's all super, just stuff you don't think about, right? But you were saying, there's a whole plethora of cogs turning to make sure this stuff happens.
And thanks though. It was validating to hear. I think, for me, it does. My default assumption after having covered it for so long is that these are boring rules. Nobody wants to really hear about it, but it's actually really wonderful to hear people, guys like yourselves who are not necessarily urban planners or developers that really need to care about these rules, but just people who care about the city, understanding that, these like policies, these lines in our planning bylaw are directly impacting, how we live in the city. So
Jason was asking me a bit of a controversial question earlier, and I just want to, give him the floor here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God.
Is this AI, Jason, or is this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just the tone of your voice, I know it's coming.
No, why are there so many homeless people? And why can't we just ship them off somewhere? I'm Jason Lucas, and I approve this question.
Whoa, Jason!
question,
Holy shit!
Finally, good question.
Oh my God! You don't even need to answer that question. That was really offensive. And
no, I can take a stab at it. I think
Ship them. Too expensive.
No, I appreciate the bluntness of it because I think it's like the sort of ship them. I mean, I don't know the logistics about shipping them out somewhere. Although I think for the Olympics something like that did end up happening.
Yes.
Maybe ask Ken Sim. He might have a plan.
But on the pod.
Yeah, get him on the pod. That'd be fun. I think he'd appreciate the humor and the conversation. But it's
We're gonna shotgun
tricky.
beers with Ken Sim. Sorry.
Oh,
You shotgun that beer right on stage.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure. I could. I don't know if I could go toe to toe with his form, but I could give it a good college try. It's a difficult. I mean, I don't know if do you want me to answer the question in some sort of serious manner? Or,
I guess I asked it, so you might as well answer.
I mean,
it.
if you have something of value to share with us, absolutely want to hear about it. But I mean, Dave's taking the funny. Sorry, Jason.
I appreciate it. It's like it's definitely humor aside, it's a really serious question about Vancouver and something that I think is more of an indicator of deeper issues within the city than it is like purely just the problem in itself, and a divisive one. So I'm not gonna say that I know everything or that I'm authority about the subject, but what I've read and learned is that one assumption we have is that like homeless people come to Vancouver to be homeless, and I've learned that's not true. When you survey the vast majority of homeless people in the downtown east side and throughout the city, it's that they moved here for any number of different opportunities, for work, for family, whatever, and then something happened. Either they lost their job, their partner became abusive, or just unfortunate circumstances happened. Maybe they struggled with mental health issues related to abuse and jobs, and that led to addictions and coping strategies via drugs. Like these are all some of the things that happen before homelessness happens. And so that's kind of the one thing that I kind of try to demystify out there. It's not that like we have like a migration of homeless people coming to Vancouver just to benefit from our nice weather.
like they're not on a train car with like a bindle and
where I'm really gonna
whistling.
find opportunity as a homeless
like a
person.
professional homeless person.
Yeah, that doesn't quite happen. Although it'd be
It's a good image.
it'd be interesting. But no, as far as I understand it, that doesn't happen. It's really sort of as a result of other factors that lead to homelessness. It's sort of like the bucket that catches a whole plethora of different socio-cultural illnesses. And so, I think that's kind of the first thing. Oh gosh, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Train car. I thought.
Yeah, train wreck of thing.
Train
Maybe that's the
wreck
first thing I'd
question.
say. And I think why do we have so many homeless people? So I think another contributing factor in this city is actually the weather. So we do have, we're lucky enough to have weather and temperatures that make it so that homelessness doesn't literally kill you if you try to spend a winter here, and that I think sadly places less pressure on our shelter system to accommodate these homeless people. Like in Halifax or in Toronto, if you have homeless people out on the streets in December, people are going to die, and so they have a much more robust shelter network to make sure everyone has some sort of a bed and a heated area to be in during these really frigid months. And Vancouver kind of, can allow itself to get off the hook because, people are going to survive it. And so I think that's kind of another sort of contributing factor. And as to the question of can we ship them out?
Getting to the original question, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I try to maintain a train of thought. I mean, I'll take it at face value and say I think the ultimate solution here is to address so many of those upstream issues. I think and stuff that you wouldn't really think about, or I hadn't really considered before, but just how we treat people who are aging out of foster care, and that's a huge overrepresented sort of part of the homeless population is children who grew up without biological parents, or raised by their biological parents, and so when they get out of the foster care system, they're literally going out into life with zero supports, zero parents' basements they can bunk in for a bit, and they're told to figure it out. And I think as a result of that, so many of them just end up homeless because they don't have so many other supports that we're all lucky enough to have if you have a family. People that are getting out of the prison system, there's all kinds of barriers for former inmates in the job market, and kind of or you try applying for an apartment when you have a criminal record. These are also contributing factors that I think really lead to the problem existing. And I think we can talk all day long about building more shelters, and I think that's really important, but I think what often gets overlooked are some of these more upstream issues that we don't think about enough, maybe.
Yeah, treating the illness, not the symptoms, sort of.
Yeah,
situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, great question, Jason.
Oh,
At the end of the day.
Wait, can I ask a real Jason question?
Of course.
This is swinging from going into other big problems that we always see in the city, and one of them being traffic, for example. And, at 2 p.m. on any given weekday, getting from one end of the city to the other is a fucking nightmare.
Right.
And in your, if you had all the power in the world, would you go public transit? Would you go more roads? Would you go
a third bridge?
More bridges?
Oh. I think the bridge for sure would be helpful, especially from the North Vancouver to Vancouver connection. It's quite insane to me that the Lionsgate Bridge is, built out to that capacity that it is. I mean, I think my answer is going to be obvious. I'd definitely go with public transit over road. And I can, sort of break it down, just from a pure, cost and maintenance perspective, you will save so much more over the long term to build out good transit infrastructure than trying to accommodate all of the demand for movement within a city and a region with cars and roads. And I think I try to kind of tell people on a high level, road infrastructure, there are a lot of parts of a city that are infrastructure, and I'd put transportation, even the healthcare system, all of housing. These are all things that are the infrastructure for what makes cities happen. And it's important that we have high quality, good, and efficient infrastructure, but we don't want that to be the main thing that a huge cost of the city. Because ultimately why a city exists is for stuff like this to happen, for people to start careers and podcasts. And, but seriously, I do feel that's kind of, what ultimately a city's focus should be. So to me, at a high level, we should always be seeking, when it comes to infrastructure, those sort of best value for buck kind of solutions. And to me, all of the evidence is quite clear on this, like public transit and active transportation, sort of networks like that work best from a purely efficiency perspective. I think it gets a bit more complicated when you think about other considerations you could have for transit. I know it's not just as simple as getting people from A to B. People, have a real attachment to their vehicles and, really use it to, convey the idea that you have a small penis and you buy a Ford 150 or something. That's right.
I feel like that.
Oh my
I
God,
could not have projected that. That's where you were
that
going.
was a weird setup. No, I'm just saying, there are many different reasons why we have the transportation system we have. But yeah, for me, the way to do it is through trying to get as many people as possible onto public transit. We do have an interesting and kind of unique challenge here in Metro Vancouver, though, because we're not just a get people from A to B city, we're also a port city. And so a ton of our traffic is actually containers getting off of ships, going onto trucks, and then taking them to, different parts of Canada. And so to me, that is you can't public transit that stuff. We need really good, highway networks for that sort of traffic. And I think, there could be an interesting solution here where we really incentivize people and workers to, to more efficient and sustainable forms of transportation like public transit, but we have dedicated lanes and routes for truck traffic and sort of that more commerce stuff, so that and because right now it's all sort of just clogging up into the same network of roads.
Mm-hmm. When you're talking public transit, you talking buses, you talking sky trains, we talking Lime scooters, I'm
not attached to any specific solution here. I'm quite agnostic about whether it needs to be a sky train or an LRT or a subway. Though some people do get quite passionate about it. I think there is sort of a best tool for the right job kind of approach that works, at certain densities of neighborhoods, like your Brentwood town centers and metro towns. It's going to be SkyTrain. It's going to be really hardcore public transit solutions. But for my parents' place in Langley, even though they would probably really love a SkyTrain, it would just be a woefully, a heavy-handed solution for that sort of neighborhood. So yeah, I think if I'm thinking out loud here a bit, sort of a network of, sort of spines that are heavy-duty public transportation like SkyTrains, connecting to, networks of both active transportation routes like, separated bike lanes where you could take your bike or your Lime scooter or whatever, as well as kind of high-frequency bus routes that then branch out into, other sort of more local bus routes. I think that's kind of what makes sense for me. Yeah, not that I don't know. I don't think I have any real business telling TransLink how to do the job, and I think
you're the most qualified one here. That's for sure.
I took the bus this past weekend, guys. When was the last time you guys took the bus?
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
The bus?
I take the SkyTrain.
I feel like I'm privileged saying I took the bus, guys. There's someone out there who's listening who takes the bus every day.
Yeah, come on.
But
I used to take the bus.
When we were going to a comedy show in downtown, and Hans Kim, fellow Korean comedian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vancouver based?
No, he's in Austin, Texas.
Oh.
Yeah, but he played a show here in Vancouver.
Is he the guy that opened for Joe Rogan sometime? I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a clip and I was like, this guy's really funny.
Yeah.
And he's Korean. That's cool.
Very dark humor.
Would you say he's a funky name or
No, he's got a very simple name.
Hans?
Compared to
Kim.
Uytae, sure.
Just
Yeah, I
two
can
syllables
talk.
for the full name.
Sure.
Anyways, took the bus. When we're sitting at home, we're like, what do we do? Should we just drive and not have any drinks? Should we get an Uber? Should we bus? We gotta walk to the bus. When it's all said and done, I'm like, man, the bus was great. That was so easy. I
Yeah.
got on for free the first time. The guy was like, I had to worry about it.
No way.
Smoking a cigar, like
Well, the
just
paper
chilling.
tickets, sometimes they just don't care. They're like,
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
And they just wave you through. I was like, this is great. I could have paid, literally, it was $70 for an Uber. It would have been $70 is like the high traffic time.
Right.
It's not that bad. It's pretty good.
I'm a big
Pretty
fan of the
good.
bus. Yeah, I mean, you'd be preaching to the choir here, but I think to your point, like as often people forget, like it's great to just not be responsible for your vehicle. To find a place to park it and then be sober enough to drive it home afterwards. That's I think one of the many benefits of having systems like that is it gives you the freedom to not have like a literal asset sort of anchoring you down wherever you go.
We
and
took
it's cheaper
two
than
buses. The first bus,
Oh, yeah.
I got on it. It was like tropical, humid temperature in there. I thought I got COVID immediately. That was a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, the
Second
airflow
bus,
could be, yeah.
there was a man, maybe an addict of sorts. He was, there's always something interesting on the bus.
Yeah.
That's where you just kind of got to come to terms with. But
That's why the bus sucks.
You literally just like flipped your. You're like the bus was great.
bad. But actually,
it was
I
great.
got
but
COVID on the first one.
I said
almost got
someone was doing
stabbed on the
crack.
come to
second one.
terms with it, and I'm okay
yeah.
with getting COVID. And
I mean, and I don't want to sort of, downplay some of the very valid concerns people have around, their experience with public transit. I think it's one of the bigger challenges, transit planners have to grapple with is that when you make, a form of transportation that is really accessible and cheap, it'll have some people on it that, like might make other people feel uncomfortable. I mean, literally just bringing different people into a collective space is always a recipe for something to go down. Like there is a true safety and comfort I get people feel when you have your own car and it's just you. So, I don't want to downplay some of those sort of considerations. It's at the end of the day, it's like it's such a trade-off, I think, and I certainly have my opinions about it, and I really believe strongly kind of in the core values behind it, but I also don't want to say be like a real purist. Like I don't know, I'm a guy and I feel
Hell yeah.
yes, yay. Yay, guys! But and so I feel a lot more comfortable in a lot of these spaces than someone else. So
you know what else? You know what I think is the best tool for getting around?
Pogo stick.
The bicycle.
Hey, yeah.
And
brand.
I rode my bicycle yesterday to get to the indoor bike park here, the brand new indoor bike park, which was in an old Sears on the North Shore.
What does that mean? An indoor bike park?
Well, imagine a Sears that's been gutted.
Okay.
And now put
a fish.
Put a bunch of jumps in there made out of plywood.
Oh, shit.
And an
Okay.
airbag in which you can practice your tricks and land in the airbag.
Oh, I see. So it's more for like mountain biking and practicing that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's like BMX, like jumping bikes.
For some reason, I thought it was just like an indoor, like, I don't know, you just take your little fixie and you kind of ride around
that's a fair
without
assumption.
fear of dying or something. I don't know. Sorry, this is the world I come from. I'm not a
Like
very
a
outdoors
speed
guy.
skating track,
Like a
but
velodrome.
Yeah,
Oh,
velodrome,
yeah, I guess
yeah.
so. Yeah.
No. But
Wrong.
So this is a comedy podcast. Some would say it's a mountain biking podcast because we have a lot of mountain biking.
I
Let's
do see several bikes right there.
Yes,
You
there's
do
a number of
practice
bikes.
what you preach.
let's talk a little bit about the bikes and the bike lanes here in Vancouver. You hate them, you love them. Where do you stand on bikes? Do you ever ride a bike in the city?
Oh, I'm a big fan of bikes. I mean, you're talking to an urban planner. I mean, maybe you
One
guys
of
don't
us,
hang.
one of
I'm
us.
clearly in like my own sort of bubble of like
Oh, yeah, name
everybody
5
I
tricks.
talk to. I can ride without my handlebars maybe
sick.
sometimes. You know.
Oh my God,
but,
you on X Games mode.
Sorry, we're just stepping all over you.
we're having so much fun with that.
Honestly, I feel like we could talk for 3 hours. I have so many questions. I'm forgetting the
let's get into
questions
it.
I had.
Oh, I'm free flow, man.
Well, we got another guest in 20 minutes. So.
Okay, so that's
20 minutes? No,
all right.
half hour.
If that's my cue to wrap it up.
or an hour.
25.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
well, my quick opinion on bikes. Big fan of them. My opinion about bike lanes in the city. I think bike lanes, so specifically bike lanes that are next to car traffic, I think work or kind of a necessity in streets downtown and a non-negotiable for people who are kind of new to cycling and uncomfortable. Like you need something a dedicated lane, ideally one with some protection between the bike and the car traffic. But I do try to come kind of from my perspective growing up in Langley. I think bike lanes actually don't work in a lot of situations, especially in these sort of really busy arterial roads. You can have all the sort of nice bushes and stuff next to the road as you want, but you'll still feel incredibly unsafe sometimes. And so to me, I'm a big fan of sort of multi-use paths that are separated from the overall, or from those like major roadways. And so, I think one of the more underrated things that Vancouver does really well is having these sort of calmer streets and these dedicated bike streets where you don't necessarily have like a bike lane, but they've done certain design interventions so that cars don't drive through it very quickly, like maybe there's speed bumps or certain blocks every now and then, and it just makes it so that it's maybe like a car every few minutes or so, and there's someone that just lives in that area. And the effect of that is it creates this really nice, calm, peaceful and very safe street where you feel very comfortable biking without the need for a bike lane. And so to me, I think that's something that the city does quite well, that maybe it doesn't get acknowledged for enough, because it's it doesn't look as sexy as like, oh, this bike lane. I don't know. To me, like bike lanes can look sexy. Maybe for the general public, it's like, oh, it's a bike lane.
Well, I mean, obviously I'm a experienced cyclist, having ridden a bike nearly my whole life. So I feel quite safe out on anywhere in the city. I know how to manage traffic and I'm on the defense when I'm riding around, right?
Oh yeah, you gotta be.
I got my light on. I got my horn.
You can make it. Tell your thing. Sorry, if we were talking about it before. Your shout out to your sponsor. You've got the dice.
Oh yeah, the spicy dice. I got my reflective spicy dice, and they now owe us $50,000 for that ad.
Hell yeah.
You can from the North Shore here. You can ride almost all the way to Steveston, which is about 40 kilometers, all along like Greenway, like you're mentioning. Arbutus Greenway, then you connect to the Railway Greenway.
Okay.
There's some little bit of sketchiness in between.
Right.
I feel like for the most part, there's great routes. And actually, we've talked about wanting to do a video on our Mahalo My Dude biking channel that kind of is like the guide to getting around the city on a bike, like how to, because it's an intimidating thing.
Totally. And I feel like so few people often know that these sort of networks exist, because if you're very used to just driving along the main roads, you might not see this little opening there that leads to a very beautiful, like scenic bike route that will take you right across the region. Let me know if you're working on it. I'm happy to share some.
Yeah, maybe we should do a collaboration.
Yeah, collab.
The collaboration of the city or the Century.
Yeah, Century.
Like there's these great greenways, and I agree with what you're saying. They're so safe and they're super wide. You have marks for pedestrians and cyclists. People use these like crazy too. But then every once in a while, there's a section of like dead man zone where there's nothing, and you have to go power through. Like you're going over a bridge, and there's no barrier between you and the traffic, and there's almost like no other way. Yeah, there's like a few situations like this from getting point A to B to C across the city. But
I think so. It's interesting. So TransLink is the kind of the managing authority for those bike networks throughout Metro Vancouver, and in my conversations with them, they've really identified that as being their core challenges. Like, we have great sections of bike paths throughout the region now, but it's at these core like weird connection points or small stretches where, just that experience alone just makes it unbearable for the average sort of, well, not the average cyclist, but maybe the average person. And so I think it's unsexy, but the way to really make this happen is kind of on a case-by-case basis, address each one of those sort of little nodes where that's kind of an issue.
I'm on the biker's side, and I don't understand sometimes the hate that cyclists get in the city. But then sometimes I'm in my vehicle and I get it.
No, I definitely
Uber
get
Eats guy on the motor e-bike, and he's cutting you off or something at the intersection. And
it's funny because I completely relate to that experience where when I'm a cyclist, I'm mad at the cars and the pedestrians that
I got yelled at yesterday on my way to the indoor bike park. Some guy told me to fuck off. I don't know what I did wrong. I saw him. I didn't have any lights on, but it's a short distance to get there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you have a swastika on your bike, so I feel like
you're probably No.
Maybe remove that first.
Do I have to clarify that it's not true?
Let's see
okay. There's no swastika, but there's a Confederate flag for sure.
Oh, yeah, I feel it. But I think to that point, like there's I think when you're getting around, like transportation just brings out a lot of primal survival instincts, and I think not even just between drivers and cyclists, but even between drivers and other drivers. Like there's it makes you incredibly anxious because there's a lot at stake. I get it. You don't want to dent up your Ford F-150 or in my case as a cyclist die. I don't want to do that. And so I think everyone's a little high strung, and I think that does make it quite a compelling argument for way better separation between these modes. I think where necessary, it's you have to have bikes and pedestrians and cars right next to each other, especially in downtown areas. But like I think once we get out more into sort of further flung neighborhoods in the district, it'd be totally reasonable to have a separated network of paths for bikes that they can just rely on and not feel so
and I think if you do choose to get out there, take safety precautions, get your reflective whatever, bring your light, your bell, and have a little compassion.
Helmet,
Mein Kampf.
Life insurance policy.
Yes, that's all wise.
I've got a question.
Yes.
I think safe to say Vancouver does all these things fairly well or not well, depending on who you ask. Have you traveled somewhere where you're like, the city is doing it right? Like, this is insanely good infrastructure.
Well, I mean, for starters, I unfortunately I haven't really traveled too much in my lifetime. I did my stint in Halifax for school, and really I feel like I got to more intimately know that city over that time. And I can tell you that city is not doing all things well, so I can't use them as an example. Though some things, Halifax, I have so much love for.
Great seafood,
good seafood, great culture. I think that's my main takeaway. Is like they're just such wonderful people, like lifelong friendships made there. I think my thoughts on it is like cities all kind of do different things well. And the cities, I think we often look to other cities overseas, maybe in Europe or in Asia, that we're like, oh man, like everybody cycles over there, or everyone, their public transit system is so reliable and good, or everyone has access to affordable housing. And I think it's very appropriate and understanding that we look to them for advice and how we can improve our own thing. But I think what I've come to understand is they're also trade-offs that those cities are making too, and that in a weird way, like covering this topic more and more has made me a lot more sympathetic to the North American experience and perhaps intention with their cities. I think if I had to sum it up in some snappy thing, I think this is, and it's going to sound a bit cliche, but it's a country and region that's really prioritized individualism over pretty much everything else. And I think, in many ways it's been successful at delivering that for a large chunk of the population. But it's come with some really significant trade-offs, not just in, our public transit systems, but I think in our housing policies, and pretty much every aspect of life here. And I do think as kind of we sort of evolve cities throughout North America, we will be certainly looking towards, we should be looking towards cities overseas on how they treat public transit and active transportation, housing policy. But there's a part of me that understands why also people move here, and we should. I think it'd be at least pragmatic to respect that. Yeah,
it's a very well-rounded answer.
I think I said a lot of ums and ahs.
Oh, please.
Well,
So
if people are so like black and white about these things, they
Yeah.
take it as face value, but there's so much gray in this. There's so much nuance to all
Totally.
these things.
Totally.
And with that said, why don't we play a game of this or that, where it's all about
Oh,
being
God.
black or white?
I was warned.
Again, folks, time to play this or that. The game where you choose between two radically different options. Either this or that. Are you ready?
About as ready I can.
Do you recognize the voice?
a Vancouver icon.
Is that Mo Amir?
No.
No. Oh, God. Sorry, shit. That was such a.
I don't even know who that is. To
That
be
was
honest.
Nardwar.
Nardwar.
Nardwar. Shout out to Nardwar. He's been killing it, crushing
Hey,
so many videos.
no
I've
way.
been
Okay.
just killing so much time watching Nardwar.
AI Nardwar.
You don't have to say that. That's, oh my God.
Yeah, it was.
Santa's
You thought it was real?
too. Yeah.
All right, are we
The
ready?
magic alive. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, God, turn that in.
Yeah. Walking or biking?
Biking.
Home Alone or Home Alone 2 Lost in New York?
Home Alone 2 Lost in New York.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Because it's a city.
Yeah.
CBC or YouTube?
YouTube. Sorry, CBC.
Of course.
Bike lanes or sky trains?
Sky trains.
Urban sprawl or compact city design?
Compact city design. I can't say yes fast enough.
Halifax or Vancouver?
Vancouver. Sorry, Halifax.
High rise or low rise developments?
High rises.
Pedestrian friendly streets or wide boulevards?
Pedestrian friendly streets.
Historical preservation or modern development?
Modern development. Yeah.
Public
Near
parks or community gardens?
Public parks. Community gardens are overrated. Sorry.
Agreed. Sustainable architecture or conventional building designs?
I'm gonna say conventional building designs because sustainability. It's like it's overused. I don't know whatever that means.
East Van or West Van?
East Van.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Granville Island or Lonsdale Key?
Lonsdale Key.
Oh, wow.
Low key. Yeah.
Commercial Drive or Main Street?
Commercial Drive.
Granville Street nightlife or Gastown's historic charm?
Yeah, Gastown.
Science World or VAG? Sorry, Vancouver Art Gallery. I had that abbreviated.
Science World.
Okay. Japadog or Tacofino?
Am I allowed to comment on these? I've been kind of
comment away.
assuming that these have to be speed rounds, but I can.
Go ahead.
No, comment.
I think both are just completely overrated Vancouver institutions. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna go with Tacofino because that feels like
Mexican place,
I've
right?
betrayed
Yeah.
my culture in some way. But no,
I mean, I I wouldn't just say you're Japanese though, right? So I mean, Matt might,
I
but
can't believe I was racist to myself. just now.
they're like, it's all the same. Would you say Tacofino is Mexican food or not?
Say it's Tofino food. That's where it's from.
That's the correct answer.
Correct answer.
Jesus.
This is a old debate.
Oh, yes.
Bike the city or walk the seawall? And this is the final question.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, no, I have so many more.
You can keep scrolling. I think walk the city. I've made my opinions on this. The seawall is a bit overrated, and I think you get a lot more
Great video.
experience for. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you get a lot more interesting experience when you just walk through Vancouver.
Okay, I'm gonna do two more here. Seawall or Stanley Park Trails?
You know, I just said that the seawall is overrated, but I think compared to Stanley Park, I'm a seawall guy for sure.
Sweet.
You know, just being in the city.
All right, and final answer or question: SkyTrain or Seabus?
I like the SkyTrain.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
that's it.
That's it.
And
Okay.
that
we
was
got
this
there.
or that. You win.
I just ripped
Nothing.
off that Band-Aid. I was like, okay. Were there right and wrong answers?
No.
All
my
right.
Whatever your heart
Whatever.
felt.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
audience will decide.
The audience really
Yeah.
decides that. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Did I do okay? I gotta say, like I said, this is the first one.
I mean, honestly, there was a few of those where I would just go, "What? Huh? What did you say? What? What was it?" I'll go with the first one, and I'm
Okay.
impressed that you can just
Yeah.
remember.
This is his field.
Yeah, I know.
Field of interest.
Yeah, I'm impressed. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Shucks.
There's so many more things we could talk about. Let's be honest, so many more things, but we're running out of time.
Maybe for another time.
So all those listening out there, go check out Uytae's channel, About Here. I think what you're doing is important. Thank you for putting your blood, sweat, and tears into all these videos. And thanks for giving me something to watch while I eat my dinner. Yeah, great mealtime videos.
Oh, thank you so much. It's again like a real honor and pleasure to be here. You guys are hilarious, and I really enjoyed myself. Like I said, it was the first time I've tried being on a podcast.
Come back again.
Would love to. Yeah.
If nobody's canceled after this, that'd be great.
That's true. Yeah. If any of us have careers.
Anything else you'd like to tell the people out there? Anything you think people should get involved in with their city or?
Yeah. To that point, I really can't stress enough, and it's going to sound incredibly predictable coming from me, but so much of the reason I do this work is, as you say, for people to just become much more involved in their city and these policies. And it's not always the most exciting, interesting stuff, but I've come to know of a lot of local groups now that are organizing on the regular, and they're young. They're advocating for better housing policy, for better transit. Abundant Housing Vancouver, I'll give them a shout out. The Vancouver Area Neighborhood Association. Like, these are groups that I think are really doing the right thing, and people not just getting involved in these issues for views and clicks like myself, but actually wanting to change policy. So I'd highly encourage anybody to just look up who's organizing stuff in your neighborhood and your community around these issues, and get involved if the work inspires you in any way.
Well, you're living proof that one person can make a difference.
Oh. On that note,
as
I
always,
I can follow that.
Yeah. I feel smarter now.
Thank you for listening to Feeding Off Each Other. Please subscribe for more great podcasts.